Howdy there, Christine.
Hi, Joe. I'm getting everything going here. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I just sent you an email.
Yes, I just saw it too.
I thought you might like that angle for tonight. I know the Kentucky Assembly would value that input. But I'll ask the questions if you don't mind after when I have my
Oh,
segment.
yes. Oh, yes.
Awesome. Thanks.
I think. Wait a minute. Maybe it should come up. I'm trying to get the camera. How do I do this again? You'd think I have this figured out. Oh, do I do it here? Maybe. No. Oh, this should do it. Yeah. Okay. Everything. Yes, I want to record here. Audio should be going. Okay. I think all that looks good. Okay. Did you have anything you may have wanted to start with real quick before we get stuff
No,
going?
Christine, go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. This will make this bigger right now. Okay. So, I can screen share. I have to do it this way so that it shows through here. Yeah. Okay. All right. Greetings, everyone. This is Christine Van Pelt on Gibson County, Indiana, State Coordinator and Lead Recording Secretary for the Indiana Assembly. This is Monday, October the 2nd, 2023, and the Indiana Assembly's General Assembly and Militia Assembly are in session. I want to welcome everyone to the call this evening. I think we should be live. Everything should be set over to everything. Should be coming through Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you are on YouTube, I'm able to see the chat. So if you can put your name and the county on Indiana that you live on, so that we can make sure we get you in the as much as we can get you in the recording as possible that you were present. All right, so let's go ahead and get a few things. Okay. All right, so we want to go ahead and take a moment of silence to honor our creator. All right. Then we shall move forward with the Bivens decision. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's call that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there a response to the Bivens decision for the first time? You can respond in the chat if you're in YouTube. You're still welcome to the call. Just like to present yourself ahead of time, as long as you're coming in peace. I don't see any response in the chat. All right. We'll continue. No response. Is there any response to the Bivens decision for the second time? Hearing and seeing none. Is there any response to the Bivens decision for the third and final time? Hearing and seeing none. Furthermore, anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who's being paid or coerced to be here must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the call. Remember, you are the public employee, and it's our duty to remind you. All right, so I wanted to bring forward, this is the General Assembly call, so we've got some updates that I want to bring forward for the month of September, and then go through fortunately, I only had 4 articles this week, so I did there was some important information in there, so I pulled some of that out. And then once we finish that, we will move on to Joe's portion of the call with us. All right, so first updates. All right, so we have now 2 more that are armored up. In September, we've added these we had new people in process. We've added Clinton County now, which it was white out on the map. Now Clinton County is at least yellow. So that's another county that we're working to populate at this point. There are 9 member agreements from Armored Up Indianians, and then there are 4 completed background checks. And then here's the regular, our regular supporters for that are on locals. We want to thank you very much. You're keeping that going too, to help us build the locals channel for us. All right, so we sent the email out to Indianians right after Joe's request of asking we asked, if it was something we could be able to present to the Assembly for a vote to add the Indiana Assembly to the pktfnews.org, and everyone that responded with a resounding yes. These are the counties that did email with their response. So we wanted to let you know, Joe, and the Peacekeeping Task Force News group team, that you can count on the Indiana Assembly to be participants to be included with that.
Fantastic.
Woohoo! So we wanted to make sure we get that one out. Okay, so we'll go through. I'm not going to read everything, but these are still even points that I pulled from the articles that Anna did this past week that were important points to remind us. Okay, so 4402, understanding the birth certificate bond. This is something that many still ask me today. Are we going to cash in that birth certificate? How can we cash in on the Sister KV trust? Is it real? How can we get it? Well, we got to remember that this is from the church government that creates the Sister KV trust. It's an insurance trust attached to your name for each municipal citizen. So what's misunderstood is many think that the bond is a source of wealth for them, but rather it's an insurance debt. Okay, so you need to realize that it is not any kind of source of abundance wealth for you to be able to tap into. Is it real? Yes, many have found various ways that they've been able to access that is sitting there. But again, it is insurance debt. It's not something that you could get any kind of money back to start building anything from. The social insurance is what you're paying through FICA taxes and other taxes that underwrite public assistance and Social Security, etc. Those are those hefty pieces that come out of your payroll check. Those are the ones that even if you think you've been able to figure out that you could get 0 taxes taken out, you really still have FICA and Medicare and Social Security that is still coming out, because that you're paying for your social insurance. And then she wanted to remind us that one is reminded not only of robbing Peter to pay Paul, but the craziness of killing for Jesus. So again, this is a spiritual warfare. It's not about religion. It's about our actual how humanity is moving forward from here. So we've got to get a grip on what's really going on. All right, second article. This one is a little bit more lengthy because it is another public international notice. And I did want to bring this one up because I think many are still in this vague confusion of, even though they say republic, in the same breath they're turning around and saying democracy. It's still a blurring in that spelling process. So I wanted to bring this forward. So the Articles of Confederation created an American chartered corporation empowered to function in the realm of commerce, and thus separated commercial affairs from the international trade, which remained under the control of the Federation of States. So this is important because this arrangement was a business arrangement that created a new commercial instrumentality for the states of America, one of the doing business as names of the original Union of States. Okay, so the American government has always been vested in the actual states, and it remains so to this day. So the combatants in the Civil War were actually commercial businesses that were under contract to provide services to the states, just like here, but it was not to the states themselves. By the fact that no declaration of war was issued by any Congress, no peace treaty existed formally to end it. All right. Okay, so then she wanted to bring forward that, so this is where we're at now. So the actual states are the employers. Oh, okay. Justin's having a little bit of issue trying to get in. I'll see how I can help him in just a moment. Okay. So we have the actual states are the employers. The Confederate States of States are the employees. And so now here we have where it's our, as the state assemblies, we have the prerogative to make one of four possible choices in how we can work through this. So we can, one, either complete the Reconstruction to relaunch the American Confederate States of States and reorganize the States of America Corporation. Two, do the work delegated to the States of America Corporation via the Federation of States, our present default position. Three, okay, I'll have to send him that link. Three, assign the work to a totally new subcontractor. Or four, work with the present service providers to hammer out an actual agreement for them to continue providing the services. So we have the choice, or it may even be that, you know, it may be a mixture of all four in some way. The American Federal Republic organized.
That was me. I sent that to him, Christine.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The American Federal Republic, organized by the states of the Union, went out of business a long time ago. Our state assemblies have to take action to reconstruct it or not. Okay. So this is where we're at, is where we're all in that point. It's either we're going to do this or not. If you want to continue in that craziness, then don't do anything more than what you've already been doing. All right, so then Anna goes on to define the specific things our federal employees need to stop. Stop presenting their private corporation elections in lieu of public elections, mischaracterizing Americans as foreign citizens, misrepresenting the British territorial government's democracy as the government of this country. This is the piece where everybody slides in. Well, you've heard, I'm sure, of the repeated news where they were able to get from the news people all across the country from several news places, and it was just a repeat of, they were all saying the exact same thing of, this is a threat to our democracy. Yes, we are the threat to this democracy because we need to get back to the republic.
Absolutely.
All right, and that's what many still slip into. I've seen many people, even a lot of the different patriot content creators out there, they're still not realizing that they slip right into that. Of jumping right into then turning around and calling it a democracy, because it's that repetition. It's been ingrained in our heads, beaten in so much that it's actually the democracy to help for that. I call it the goldfish memory of, well, you are a republic, but yet it's for the democracy.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to stop declaring wars against anything. Spending our credit on wars in Ukraine and elsewhere. It's interesting. Did you see that Lindsey Graham's little dance to turn around that he's actually trying to push more to help support Ukraine? Promoting illegal and unlawful taxation, forced registrations, participation in biological warfare and mind control experiments. Something to think about is, do you think you're going to be a participant in this October 4th, I think, emergency test? This has been something that's interesting that's been coming up, or is it more fear tactic to put out there? All activities detrimental to the public good, including aerial spraying of chemicals, mind control exercises, censorship of public airwaves and media, pollution of all kinds, attacks on our food production and food resources, all phony vaccinations and tracking systems. That in and of itself is a handful of the things that we need to be able to work on to be able to try to bring back to some kind of a wholeness. Failing that, they all need pink slips and the dissolution forfeiture of their corporations. If they're not willing to step up to come in alignment, everybody knows now, so I don't feel sorry for any of the rank and file employees anymore. Everybody's aware now. We're all awake. We all know what's going on. You're at that point now. If you're still needing that paycheck from that place that you know, regardless if it's governmental, if they're lying in any way, you're a part of it. So you need to, we all know now. Everybody's awake. There is no hiding it. Even the NPC players will tell you they know, but they'll still continue because they're an NPC. You know, everybody's awake now. So no more feeling sorry for Jan at the BMV that's put in 25 years and is getting ready to retire, and she just wants to get over that hump to get that retirement. You could have retired earlier, because I know you were vested at 7 years. You could have even done it at 10 years. So we're not, we could have had more forgiveness earlier on, but now everybody knows. So, but that's on you to have to deal with how you're living each day, because hopefully you're at least looking in the mirror once to do your hair at some point. So, all right. So the next article is do or not do. I thought this was also poignant because I'm feeling this very much as well. Anna was talking about a Japanese friend that gave her this advice that one should either do something or not do it. If you were given bad information and believed it, by all means, admit the mistake and correct it. If you were deprived of information you needed and because of that made a mistake, admit the mistake and correct, but never do the right thing for the right reason and apologize for it. That's the line. Because I've seen many that they know they did the right thing. They know they did it for the right reasons, but then they end up apologizing because of the peer pressure, because they're afraid of what somebody else thinks about them. And then you just defeated all of that. Be honorable in all things and make clean decisions so that your mind and heart can be at peace. In other words, don't lie. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to others. This is the Christ. The Christ is the truth. We're the body of Christ. Therefore, the truth needs to be in us. We're all the body of Christ. We're all awake. It's time for truth. That's why the physical man, Jesus, did not need to walk with us at this time, because humanity has decided to be the body of Christ and wake up to the truth. So, the voice of the world is loud and always shouting at us, buy me, obey me, be afraid of me. The voice of truth is soft-spoken and kind, doesn't threaten or coerce. It whispers, I am present. I am with you. I love you. Okay, again, it's far bigger. We're battling principalities in high places, right? Okay, 4405, and this is the last one, and I also thought it was relevant because it is sloppy language. We've all gotten to where we've contributed in this because, well, it was just easier to say. It's less words. It's just easier to go with it. Everybody else understands this. So even though we know it's not right, we'll just go ahead and say it this way because everybody else, it's easier to understand. So you get sloppy in how you use your words. That's where you even get to where you use some words simultaneously when they really don't mean the same thing, really aren't even connected. But we don't know it because we were locked in that spell. Okay, so the new Confederation doing business as the States of America took over commercial incorporated business affairs. So it went from the States of America. So sloppy language comes in because the Federation is made up of the member states, the physically defined states of the Union. The Confederation was made up of member states of states, which are businesses under contract to the states to provide government services. So you have your member states and then states of states. Over time, people began calling the states of states, like the state of Maine, those first Confederate states, just plain states. And so my own, just not wanting to be clear, well, everybody, oh, you know what I mean, and just started messing up because of not wanting to be clear in the separation. So, of course, then it blurs the line between the actual physically defined state and then the associated state of state, because people were connecting state as being the same word and not thinking, we're thinking on being a republic, what state means, where they're coming from, what democracy state means. Okay. Another point, we thought that the Federation required state electors to be white landowners above the age of 21. In fact, it was the Confederation that had that requirement. So every eligible elector is considered to be a landowner because our vessels, dust thou art, and dust, and to dust returneth, right? So we're always walking on the earth, our own land. And even if they try to kidnap us and take us somewhere else or anything like that, they still can't. Until our spirit leaves our body, we have not left our own land. Thus, there are no racial or land ownership requirements to be a Federation official, officer, or elector. Federation and state assembly justice, juror, court, and court officers can be any color or creed. The nature of the so-called American Civil War II, which is commonly called the war between the states, to promote the idea that the actual states were the combatants in this illegal mercenary conflict, when it was actually the states of states. All right, then on a also goes into that we've deduced the illegal and commercial nature of the conflict from the following facts. One, no Congress ever issued a declaration of war. Two, no formal peace process or peace treaty ending the Civil War was ever recorded. Three, President Andrew Jackson declared peace on the land via 3 public proclamations, but they were verbal contracts with the civilian population were immediately dishonored by the British Territorial Congress. For the Reconstruction, which in their terms was a reorganization because from the bankruptcy required, was outlined by the Territorial Congress as the Reconstruction Acts, nearly all of which remain on the books and in effect to this day. 5 successive territorial municipal congresses have operated under pretense of emergency and war and continued to declare war on every 2 years. So that's why there's a whole generation. Our youngest was born in 2004. All he knew was everything about the Iraqi war. Whereas our older two, they were born in 95. So they were pre that time period. So for them, though, their harsh memory was the media repeating the videos of the so-called planes going into the buildings. So that was what their firm memory from that period was. All right, so 6, the members of the Federation government, which was owed the return of all delegated powers of the Confederation the moment the Confederation failed. So it's failed. 7, thus an American Raj was established by foreign corporations, most especially the British Crown and the municipal government of Rome, and the horrors inflicted by this new brand of colonial feudalism have reflected the same oppressions, lies, omissions, and abuses that Mahatma Gandhi exposed in India 100 years ago. So again, nothing's new under the sun, we were told, right? Now we and all the still occupied since World War II countries, because if you've noticed that every time we've been in some kind of conflict, we're still there. We've got a base, we've got people there that everywhere. It's like, why? If it's over, why haven't we pulled them out so they can come back home? But no, once we've been there, they stay there. So, and now it's merged into the World Economic Forum and the UN. Because I guess evidently they turned the US into the military for police for the globe. So 9, the heinous monsters follow the banner of National Socialism and have forgotten who really owns their corporations and under which law their corporations are created and allowed to endure. So, and with that, because what's craziness is this is why we need to get our people actually standing up and doing the work, is because they've admitted that we, the general public of this country and our lawful government, own the corporations via their frequent and repeated abuses of public bankruptcy protection. And we are the principal and priority creditors owed all substance and control of these corporations, and we have invoked their prosecution for unlawful activity under the ecclesiastical law that created them. But we all need to stand up in all the states to be able to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're all in agreement with this. We're making this change. We can't sit around and still be in the mindset of, well, there's a select group that's handling all of that for us. That's why we're at where we're at. Okay? Because that same small select group right now is trying to do their reset. And if you don't say no, you're going to be a part of it. And this is where we also come in as the living men and women that are a part of the general public, that they agree that we're a part of the general public and that we're the principals and priority creditors. It's our responsibility to ensure to liquidate them and forfeit them, right? Ensure that they shut themselves down. Okay. And this one was issued by Anna on October the 1st. Okay, so those were the articles that I wanted to go through, and that was everything that I have for us for Indiana, and general information to be able to support Kentuckians as well. And so I will turn things over to whoever would like to go next.
Fantastic, Christine. So punctual, so accurate, 30 minutes almost exactly. But let Justin go ahead and open up for what he might have for Kentucky.
All right, thanks again for having us.
Welcome.
One thing I checked, Christine, was the YouTube. I just kind of checked in the stream, and for some reason I wasn't able to access it. Is there something you got to do? Let me check it again.
Well, that might be helpful. It should be going live now. Well,
I just seen one waiting, and that could have been me. But
it should all be. You should be able to be in now. They probably missed all of that because I didn't have that extra clipped. Okay, but it'll be on the recording, and I will be uploading that, and we're at least all live at this point now. Should be, hopefully.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. I didn't know if I had stuff wrong on my end or what. Let's see. What I have for Kentucky is we're going to have a meeting tomorrow night about the final inaugural meeting planning. It's going to be nailing down all the fine tuning and getting all the specifics worked out. As of right now, we have 9 total that have RSVP'd. 6 of those are papered up on Kentucky, and 3 are people that have either gone through Evangeline Grace Status Select and have the paperwork in hand, or people that I have been corresponding with through email when they've come through by way of TASA. So got some newbies coming. I'm looking for more people than just 9 to come, because not everybody would have RSVP'd. Case in point, I just got a late RSVP tonight, so that would put us up to 10. All right, so we got a pretty good plan together. Joe's got a pretty good PowerPoint presentation, and then I think at the end of that we'll just have kind of like a Q&A session. The doors open at 12 o'clock for papered up people, and 1 o'clock for people that are invites, or invites. So, and then that's all I got pretty much from that aspect. And on recording secretary end, I just want to reiterate that we're here to paper up people to help them get recorded and published, but we're also here to manage and maintain the land recording office, which is us, the general public, the civilian American government's land jurisdiction recording office. So that said, that means that if you're in the process of an administrative process, or even if you're newly papered up and you've done your tax revocation letters, make sure and get with your recording secretary and get those published. So I'm going over this because we do have some new people on Kentucky that have been papered up and are going through that process. So I just want to put a reminder out there that if you are going through that, don't hesitate to reach out to us on Kentucky and of course on Indiana to make sure and get your green receipts or any kind of correspondence you get back from the entity you sent, so that we can get that published on the LRO for you.
And if I may, when you do send that information to your recording secretary, whether Indiana or Kentucky, send it in a PDF, not in a photo, and make sure that you're only getting the picture of that receipt or that green card, not taking a view of everything else in the background, because that has to be then cropped out, and then putting that into a document, it makes a bad copy. It doesn't always stretch bigger well. So we want to make sure that it's a clean copy for the public record for you. So you can always take it to the local library if you're not sure how, and give them the actual piece of paper to scan. Don't take a picture and then say, well, can you convert that to a PDF? And you still have your bedspread in the picture. So, I mean, not that it's not a nice bedspread, but that's not necessary for the public record.
Yeah. I like to tell people to, of course, make a copy of right before you put your stuff into the envelope. Make a copy of it, because then it's got all your autographs, your red thumbprints on it. If you put them on there, everything's on there. You've got a copy of it. And then when you start getting correspondences back, whether it's a green receipt, or let's say it's been 2 weeks and you ain't gotten a green receipt, you go on the USPS.com and track it. Well, print that out, scan it all in as one PDF, as Christine said, and send that to
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. If you didn't get a green card, you can always go in and track it. And if it says delivered, take a screenshot of that and put it in a PDF and send that to your recording secretary as well. That works. Absolutely.
And so I've told people to e-verify me. So that's e-verify at americanstatenationals.us to e-verify me, and then just look at the examples I've got on there, because I have done I've done both Secretary of States, the state of state, and the U.S. corporation, my Bureau of Council Affairs, all that, trustee notice, all that. So if anybody needs an example, go on there. Go on to other assemblies like the Texas Assembly. They have a lot of good examples of their notice, trustee notice on there. But that's about all I've got. I'm just excited about this face-to-face meeting coming up. I know a lot of people are. So.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Exciting. Yes, that definitely.
Yep. Justin, even Christine is entertaining the idea of joining via Zoom for just a little while during the meeting, if she can. I guess if she gets the link, and we'll see you on the screen if that's the case, if we're able to do that.
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, are you planning on bringing your laptop to do your PowerPoint?
I sent you guys the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I will bring my laptop, but I don't know who would be presenting that. Or will you be able to present that?
I would. That would tie up my laptop though. So if we're gonna try and do a Zoom meeting, then one of us could host the Zoom and record it from the Zoom, set the laptop up, and then the other one could do a PowerPoint or something like that.
Sure.
But we can work that out tomorrow night on the planning call.
Sure.
See if somebody else maybe has the laptop. Keith may have one.
Yeah. And Christine and
or
Justin,
however, whatever, if that doesn't work out, that's not a problem either. We can always do something, later on for another outreach as well. Because I can get kind of heavy in the.
And just for future reference, I'm really liking how these meetings are taking place. I know we're covering down on 3 different pillars, 2 in particular on one occasion, and then another. It's general and Jural, and then general and militia, correct?
General and militia and Jural and militia.
General militia, Jural militia. Okay. Well, so that's great. And when Justin is able to join, if it's okay, Justin, after Christine provides her a 30-minute read-in, if you would like to, cover down on with regards to Kentucky, just like you did, that would be great. And then at the same time, I can provide the peacekeeping aspect, which then, Christine, if you can then at this moment, bring up the PKTF site, and then I'll go ahead and explain what you were successful with receiving 5 counties in agreement with what you mentioned to them.
Yes.
But anyway, I'll show what you're talking about, and then we can go into these questions, and you don't have to, of course, Christine or Justin or myself even as coordinators before, or in the role of coordinators, I did quickly send you questions, but we can go over those not all together. You can answer them as concise, or you can elaborate as much as possible if you like, but we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so for the call, if you would, Christine, hover over states or click states. Okay. And if you zoom in, maybe you don't have to zoom in, but so what's happening now is a verbal and this is a collaboration effort. This is a buy-in type of effort. It's not stringent, it's not highly technical or detailed, but essentially what Indiana has agreed to, if you click Indiana, you can go, or just before you click it, hover over. See how it's orange? What that will be is green or darker green, basically. But if you'll notice over the hover, it's emphasizing cooperation pending. Now, what Christine was able to confirm is she has received a consensus from majority counties to have Indiana's assembly have the PKTF news site on their website. So if you go ahead and click then. And then on the Indiana Assembly somewhere, wherever Indiana's IT team or Christina, whoever's, will then find a space on their site that's either obvious or a keyword search. But anybody going to the Indiana Assembly inquiring for correcting their status, or anybody who has corrected their status, they will have a link describing or how to access the PKTF. There's nothing that needs to be a separate page or anything necessarily, but it will just help corroborate why, if anybody goes to the PKTF news site, they'll see the difference between pending cooperation or correspondence from one state versus another. In this case, Indiana will be green instead of orange, because their site will have, a link to the site, PKTF site. And again, the reason why we're going this extra mile, folks, is because the Peacekeeping Task Force had a rough, rocky start, approximately 13 months into its first version existence. So anybody who's privy to that or is concerned about that now and in the future, we want to go that extra mile to show that indeed the Peacekeeping Task Force is under welcomed scrutiny at all times to assure that our role and responsibility is to assure that all peacekeeping elements are operating properly, lawfully, peacefully, they're transparent. They endeavor to reach out to every aspect of every other peacekeeper out there around the world, even with regards to the American version of maintaining, upholding, keeping the peace. And that our continual building on our website will reflect that. But no utter transparency. That's what we're going for, okay? So we want everybody to be able to, especially through the coordinators, by virtue of meetings such as this, or having the PKTF news site found on your website as well. That's really what we're going for, okay? So that's where that will go. Okay, you can back out and go. Okay, and you can go to FAQs. Okay, now this ties into where we're asking, and there's only 3 purposefully. We have dozens of questions that we can put, and we will put eventually, but we want to, again, have it to where anybody who does send us questions, we will provide those questions and the answers to those questions, along with the state who asked those questions, okay? This is just another extra step we would like to go for those who are providing, inquiry, and then, adding that extra emphasis on that colorful, dimensions to the effort. So if anybody has any questions, you can click any one of those 3 and you'll see where it'll open up. We want to attempt to answer every question possible, and the more questions, the better. Eventually this page will grow to hundreds of questions perhaps, and that's great. Eventually we'll place our search bar at the top portion of the site like most websites have, and ultimately every question should be answered. at some point. So if anybody again has any questions, you can send those to the link that Christina's provided, the link that the on this site where you can. If you go to the bottom, you can see where you can correspond as well. You can message us directly or send us an email. You see at the bottom left. Yep. And just keep those questions coming, and we'll answer them in this fashion. Okay. So thanks, Christine. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm trying to identify, or you can confirm what I'm identifying so far as your approach towards coordination. Now, you open up with articles that are either recent or things that you feel that have came around again, I guess. But
For the general, yeah, of if the articles seemed like they were, because I love through the questions that I get throughout the week, of if it is relevant. And a lot of times, frankly, I also go to God in prayer and say, what is it that you want me to talk about tonight?
Well, I got to tell you, and I'm not just smoozing you here, but your presentation reminds me of when I was in college. It's got that feel or that delivery. So kind of like a college theater, where the professor's down there and keeping your attention, keeping your attention well. So anyway, kudos for that. It's really great. But Justin and I both can share in what it has been to be a coordinator. And for me, it was great. It was one of the most interesting, compelling 10.5 months that I covered down for the Kentucky Assembly. Just a little backstory on that. Christine, you may be familiar with or recall Benjamin Hernandez, who was the Kentucky coordinator. Maybe not, but there was a coordinator before him, whether or not if you remember. And I think those were the first two Kentucky Assembly coordinators. And I just could not help enough. When I reached out to Benjamin, he corrected my first level, 1779. I just kept reaching out because I felt I had so much to offer him, and he couldn't tear away from he owned 2 small businesses, and he ran a very, very very small group of employees. And he ultimately moved back to the New England states, I believe New Jersey, where he was born. But yeah, those first 10.5 months, what I did, just really quickly, I went around to the other assemblies where I was able to listen to their recordings, their General Assembly meetings, and as well going to the weekly recordings, coordinators call back 2019. And it was just great. It was great. It seemed like a lot at first, but I settled into the model of the role of the coordinator. Also, I had phone conversations with, Paul on Wisconsin, and I think it was a couple of times.
You muted.
And others.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, it was so anyway, to make a long story short, it was interesting. And the only reason why I stepped away is because I was called into the realm of peacekeeping. And nearly 25 years serving in the military, it was absolutely where I needed to be. And so that's where I was, that's where I am. And at first migrated into the role of sheriff, which is where I ultimately would like to be, maybe years down the road. But the peacekeeping task force was coming online at that time, and a director and 2 directors actually, and it's quickly went from there to the Continental Marshal Service. And so one thing led to another, and I stayed within that realm. And then we were very fortunate to have Justin come on board with his prior military, I'm sure compelling him and keeping him focused. And so anyway, that's been my experience, and Justin can share his as well. But I also emailed you, Justin, these questions, and I apologize for the very short notice, Christine, about this.
You're packed.
But so again, since right now I know you have these calls and the recordings are nationwide, accessible nationwide. And again, I've heard from other folks from other states that admire your work. So again, kudos to you. But for the sake of the the working relationship between these two neighboring states in particular. I wanted to get it, offer you the opportunity to share your ongoing and seasoned perspective as state coordinator based on these questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and again, as far as Kentucky's concerned, or any other assembly who finds themselves between coordination roles, hopefully they'll gain value out of this, and maybe somebody will step up and say, well, based on 3 coordinators and one is seasoned beyond, I think I could probably do that, So, well, one of the questions I have it was asked to me it's just one of the top questions. So to you, Christine, how many hours on average do you spend each week as a state coordinator for Indiana?
Roughly 10 to 15. And then that's just as, state coordinator. Then you got all the tech stuff
Right.
of dealing with the videos and technology aspect.
So about 10 hours on average. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We ran the numbers between quarter time and halftime hours versus a full-time 40-hour week obligation, which most people are used to.
Mhm.
So that would break down to about 1.5 hours a day for 7 days.
Mhm.
That's okay. Okay. That's great. Justin, I sent you that same spread of questions, Justin. Did you have anything off of that, or
Yeah, I would just
anything?
like to go back to what you were saying a little bit earlier was about when I first came onto the coordinator position. I was really gung ho, and that's what I did was I was watching other assemblies as much as I could just to see how they ran their meetings, especially in the case of a vote or a motion to the floor. That was really intimidating, being able to handle that. But all of it, for lack of a better term, would be intimidating, and that's why it's great what's going on here with the discussion about how coordinators roll. But at first I was into it. I was doing about 3 hours a day, and that's with video research only. A lot more preparation goes into the preparing of the agenda, which is what Christine does so well, and puts that out in the PowerPoint presentation.
And that comes from the creator. I listen.
So, yeah, to answer your question, sorry for drawing it out. At first, it was about 3 to 4 hours a day. That's about how much road time I got traveling back and forth to work. So I was just, you know, listening and taking mental notes and stuff like that. And then so as time progressed, started my administrative process, got busy and busy and busier with other stuff. It's dropped down to about an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and that's still with the same type research. So that's how I kind of run my
So for both of you, that was after you had came to terms with, based on your many hours, days, weeks, months of education before. Okay. All right. Great. Same with me. Same with me. Yeah, I was already convinced and was ready to participate after, I would say, 3 years of education beforehand. So
I do want to bring up again, this is about the coordinator role where Justin and I also are wearing recordings, and you did probably for a minute of recording secretary roles.
No, I didn't do that. That was that's another one of my questions, is other hats you may wear on top of that. So no, Christine, the only role I took on was that of coordinator.
Mhm.
So before, when I came on, there was no certainly no marshal at arms. The recording secretary role, I think you may have handled it. You or Gloria on Ohio as international recording.
I may have done some. Gloria may have done you.
Yeah. So Kentucky's grown quite a bit since then. It's been a while, but we've definitely settled in a lot of ways, especially that of the marshal at arms, which is one of the aspects of development Indiana's focused on right now. So we're going to get around to helping you with that. Justin has quite a bit on that. Okay, so next question is, what weekly meetings are you invited to regarding Federation development? So what other, outside of your own meetings?
The weekly coordinator call for coordinators. Then of course there's the recording secretary. But really right now it's the coordinator calls.
Mhm. And what value do you get out of those calls?
Well, that's where I get a temperature of what's going on the other states as well. As to if they're running into because little things will pop up that are recurring that will pop up across. So I pay attention to that. And if they're or if some are experiencing something that hasn't come yet, I can get a heads up to be prepared for that. And it's been interesting to see how they are handling things for their state. It's also at the same time it's trying to separate out what parts recording secretary aspect within it as well, because many of the coordinators take on a recording secretary role as well. So
yes,
but it's also ensuring that the paperwork is land and soil jurisdiction. So a lot of times we've got to delve into the paperwork as well, because there are some like to make a slight subtle change. There's been some that I've noticed that they've come from Evangeline, and there's been some slight alteration within the text, and it's like, I don't think she would have put that in the template. And so to find out that they had an electronic version, so they put their change up in. I'm like, no, you need to adjust. So a lot of times it's merging into that of trying to ensure that their paperwork is accurate as well, so that they are even qualified to be able to move to the next phase. So it to some extent we have to have some of that knowledge as well. So it's kind of trying to separate out some of that, when right now a major portion of it is making sure the paperwork is correct. My husband's always commenting, because he said, you have some people where they seem like they're really, difficult to try and get them through the phases and everything. And I said, well, just remember, they're not assembly members yet.
Mhm. Well, do you have separate
Just
recording
the coordinator
secretaries?
right now is me.
Okay, so that makes it considerably more difficult. I think
Right. There
Justin,
has been other recording secretaries with me along the way, but then they've ended up their life, picked up. They weren't able to work with
right.
it. So
Well, what I've noticed in other meetings, again, just a bit of optimism here, but a lot of folks, they take a break from the assembly because it's overwhelming to begin with. They've already came to terms and made it a considerable life change that it takes a few seasons to even consider what that
oh
is.
yeah.
And when
Oh,
they step
yeah.
away, they come back several months later and they're absolutely completely vitalized.
Oh yes, you can definitely
Yeah.
see it in the communications, because I'll have where they'll all of a sudden they'll just stop for a few weeks, even a few months. But then when they come back, it's how their email is that I know.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've taken
Yeah,
a
sure.
deep dive, and so now they're ready. They're moving to that
Right.
next level. It may not be
If I'm-
jumping into anything yet, but they're at least
I'm-
making that next step. Go ahead.
If I may, on that point, that's what I'm hoping this merge with Indiana will do, is kind of bring back some of our state citizenry to be able to want to get back into the assembly and have meetings and just discuss things.
Mhm.
So because we do have some state citizens that are just like you said, Joe, and I love the way you put that. Is it's just, this is a seasonal thing, and it's the way they've got us up against the wall and having to choose our battles, so to speak, until we can get state citizens and statesmen and stateswomen of each state noticed and recognized by the de facto to where we can operate and not have to find the cheese so much, then that's going to be a big key to getting more people involved. But yeah, that's one of my big uh, good points about this merge, is hopefully bringing back some of Kentucky's state citizenry and also Indiana's.
Yeah, and the
Thanks.
coordinator role, I mean, the fact that it sundowns eventually, really helps with embracing the idea, because again, the more successful coordination efforts that take place, the less and less the coordinator actually has to take on. They just have to get past that hurdle of having
Yeah.
people step up. So it's a really interesting and rewarding for me, and anyway, as having served in that role. And if I wouldn't have taken on peacekeeping roles, I would most likely still be there as a coordinator. If not for the state coordination, co-coordination through my county as a county and state,
Mhm.
Okay. So next question, how much value do you receive by collaborating with other state coordinators? Justin's don't count, Justin, because this is, I mean, you can add him too, but I mean, do you speak with other coordinators on the state level
Yeah,
and have
well,
it?
I do have a lot of that interaction because of also being regional coordinator, Federation recording secretary. So I am able to connect with the other coordinators, and we do again, it's interesting to see how other people are handling it on their states, as well as there are a lot of states that are still in that they just don't talk.
Mhm.
But the ones that are, it's like you can tell that they're the ones that are blazing forward, and they're right there, any questions, they're right there ready to help with. And they're putting themselves out there, making themselves visible. And that's been great to be able to easily locate them as well,
Mhm.
to be able to connect. So that's been huge. And because of that, we've been able to build that connection that they also know, there's going to be truth coming from my end, as well as I expect truth from them too. And so it always, we end up, the conversations end up expanding and growing as opposed to stifling out. So I've been very grateful for those opportunities.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, I know, I do recall, largely my experience as coordinator was with email correspondence and then providing the agenda along with video conferencing. So, so email correspondence, a follow-up email correspondence of the same, and phone calls. That was seemed to be more time consuming, but I always narrowed it down with, we'll see you on the call if you can make,
Mhm.
in the recordings and all those things, which narrowed down that preoccupation. But what's the highest, but overall, unless those are the main points, email, phone call, conversations, video conferencing, what's the highest level of workload for you when dealing with people from, the state inquiring about status correction? Is it, long drawn out questions, confusing situations, heartstrings tugging at you,
Some are still coming in where some of the confusion, because they've come from other groups. Some, you can tell, literally are saying they've just are really realized what's even going on. Which that is far less than what it was when I first started. So that's a great sign there. The let's see. Let's see. Maybe if you could rephrase the question so I can, if there are other roles that are heavier, or at least add to it, right? Mainly is the,
Well, what would preoccupy you more than what you already know to be the role of state coordinator? And state coordination is, helping people to um, find their place in their assemblies and encouraging them to take on roles that helps further the assembly. What's been what's the most peculiar, I guess, or on average, the most time consuming? And questions are, you have people who are upset and they're running scared and they have many issues, several issues that they're trying to work out, and they think they're educated on how to, and then at the same time they're asking you how to help. provide a sanctuary setting kind of, I've
But
dealt with those in the past. I've heard about those. They're very rare. Most people I know coming in with no issues, except they're just tired of the uh well, they want to actually, in my experience, they want to help. They actually want to participate, but they
Mhm.
also want to learn. So they want to listen intently and then gradually move into assisting on some level. And of course, maintaining the peace. But
Right.
I think, if I may, I think part of where my time goes is just what you said, is that not the outreach part of it, responding to inquiries, emails like through TASA, or some people are more efficient than others without being demeaning to anyone. It's just the way it is, but they're able to find their own way of producing their own paperwork and coming to us already ready saying, hey, I need to get my stuff recorded. And then, of course, status select, Evangelina, uh, she sends me an email every time that a Kentuckian, she sends them their packet. And so I'm tracking right now, not to disclose any personal information, I'm tracking 4 of those packets, get 4 of those alerts, and that's been a month now. So I'm kind of wondering, is it on gone through and got the paperwork to see where I'm going with it? Or are they going somewhere else, taking that paperwork somewhere else? Some of these
Right.
consulting firms that are out there, charging $500 to do it and stuff. So
Yeah, I've
that's kind
noticed
of,
that there are some as well that,
yeah,
and they'll put there's even some that will have, because she gives them a choice for notary or assembly recording secretary.
right,
There are some that they'll put assembly recording secretary, and then I still don't see them.
right,
And it's like,
yeah.
I hope you're not getting a notary to do it, and
So
then so
yeah, most
so
most of my time,
are you saying you suspect that? I mean, I could see that as a possibility. People setting up with an entrepreneur mindset, taking the paperwork and then trying to set up a side firm.
it's happened.
Ultimately, it still corrects their status, but
Yeah,
but
it's happened.
well,
You've got a
but
Tennessee.
if they're finding a way to get it put on a public record, yes, then they're supporting their status correction. It doesn't help with the assemblies to be able to
right.
ensure that we're
Exactly.
supporting that state national correctly, because we don't even know.
Well, that's what
Right.
gives us
Yeah.
our standing, correct? That's what I'm getting at. That's what gives us our standing, is the fact that we hold 2 copies, supposed to be 3 when our courts get up, but 2 copies. That's how we maintain the land recording
It's the
office
paper, the
for the
record,
state. That's what gives
physical
us our
record.
general jurisdiction,
Mhm.
our standing, and our standing is that every people, or man or woman, has done the same type paperwork, whether it be 1779 or 928. But that's what gives us our standing. And people going to the consulting firms, they're just strictly, I won't be derogatory, but they're kind of acting the part. They're state nationals, right? But they're only really published on the C jurisdiction.
Well, and it's
They,
also back to, because my concern with which I ended up offering here for Indiana of doing the document prep service, but it's because they're paying someone else to do the documents, they're whipping out the paperwork and thinking, well, they're all done. And it's like,
right.
they have no idea even what's in there. Or may even have a vague idea, if that. And some don't even realize that they're supposed to follow through with canceling voter registration, cancel IRS. And so a lot of times, that's why because I'm not sure what other information they get from Evangeline, other than we do get the notification that one of our nationals or one of our state people were there. But I don't know if what else she does. I don't know, other than it's, contact, you can go to contact us, because I've seen, I get a lot of emails where they've gone through her website contacting Indiana Assembly, some even from other states
Do
as
you
well.
remember? Do you remember the time
Losing you.
when one
I
of
don't know if
Cutting
it's
out.
me. Oh, you.
recent
Mm.
articles where the normal URL for the tax, remember that? Well, that's a consulting firm. That's what I'm talking about. And they're charging people like $500 to do their paperwork, consult them through their tax verification and how to self-govern. They're kind of supposedly teaching them how to self-govern. And that's where I'm wondering how we can come up with kind of, special type outreach to those to make sure that they're aware of us. Because maybe, maybe they're not aware of the assembly, and the consulting firm is who's put them onto Evangeline Grace, you know? Or is that maybe I'm way off in left field, Christine? You tell me, way more, because if they're putting Kentucky Assembly Recording Secretary notary blocks on it, then they've got to be aware of something in that aspect. So it's just a thought that I had. I know that it's out there. I know that the Assembly's proprietary information is being used to further people's what they think is uh, entrepreneurial, fame.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Those are, in my
That is
opinion,
the
I'm just saying, those who are taking advantage of the situation, they're only going to get away with that for so long. And those who they've overcharged in excess, providing unnecessary services such as that, $500, good grief, that's crazy.
well, it all
They're eventually
catches
going
up
to find the
eventually.
assembly. Yeah, they're going to find the assembly and kind of lick their wounds and say, well, I should have done my due diligence and found the actual assembly first and the actual recorders. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And what's concerning is, you know, again, if you're wanting, the whole process is also to try and help get them to the assembly as well. It's a two-step. It's not just status correction. It's also then get to the assembly. Even if you're not going to do a lot of the active participation, get to the assembly, because at least then you have some form of a shielding to be able to support you through this while you're still out there, albeit you're on the land, but you don't have that extra that you would have with the assembly of learning, what are the correct terms, how to walk correctly, being
well,
that
everybody's always
accountability with each other on correcting your language. Go ahead.
everybody's always out there about exercising your rights. Well, that's one of our First Amendment rights, is the right to peacefully and assemble without threat or. So exercise your right, people.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Be willing
Well,
to
Chris,
say stand up.
well, Christine, I noticed again, if you've known me by now, especially currently, I'm a big fan of local government, and I'm growing more and more educated on how they operate. And I gotta say, what the Indiana Assembly provides is the better parts of what local government for Kentucky offers. So, for example, it would be electors that are in meetings. Okay, electors, a special guest as well, and there's also an opportunity, either 10% through their meetings or at the end or both, where citizen discussion is given the opportunity, and usually it's at the end. Of course, they're always at the end. So I'm curious, are the Indiana citizens? I'm sure they're busy, but like we all are. But are they either on the call, on the chat, and of course I know they're invited, but
I don't have, of course, it may have been delayed with getting into the YouTube here, but I don't have anybody in the call right now from other than
yeah,
myself.
right. Well, even that as minutes or at audio video recording is again above and beyond even what local current de facto government offers, and you do. So you're on par and definitely above, a cut above them. But I was just wondering, I noticed the General Assembly meetings aren't crowded as of yet. I'm sure they will once you have, our version of magistrates, that being actual electors, and
I
chair
am
people.
still running into issues with different email service providers. A lot of the free email services are bouncing the emails. So a lot of people aren't even getting the emails. I'm trying to figure out ways to be able to get past that.
Okay. Well, I mean, with the access to the recordings and those who've corrected their status, or those who may even be considering it, or those who may accidentally stumble across your broadcasts, your replays, it's just really, really great. Seems very flexible. It gives plenty of ample room for reflection, for adding to their learning curve, lessening their learning curve. And it also gives them an opportunity at a distance to consider joining their assembly, even if they are a state national,
Mhm.
to join with their committees. Because I don't know how this is even people are aware, but even as an American state national, you can freely volunteer to join your committee. You don't have to be elected to join a committee. You would have to be elected to operate a committee, to chair that committee, but to be a working force within any given committee, American state nationals and American state citizens can do that. So, and there's no need for these kinds of meetings to, they have their own meetings,
Which I
So,
did
anyway.
also set up for these and forward meetings of where there's two rooms separated out, one for Indianians and one for Kentuckians. So for those times that we did want to separate out, it's already set up for us to be able to do that. However, Justin, somebody on Kentucky side in that room would have to record, because I wouldn't be in that room. So you would have to make sure to get that recording. So I'll make sure when we go to do that, we have to make sure you're as a host, co-host within there, so you can do that.
Yeah, I'll be on board with that. I think whenever we both get time, we should get together and maybe work. You probably got it. Maybe it's the better wording would be get the time. Maybe you can give me the rundown on what you need me to do as far as a marshal at arms position. How do I monitor chat? Stuff like that. Maybe
Ooh, yeah, I can.
maybe yeah. Like for the YouTube streaming and stuff like that. It's if I could lessen the burden for you to have to
Oh,
worry about all that, then I'd be
yeah,
more willing to do that. So
absolutely.
Oh,
that would yeah.
you're gonna get the goods here, Christine.
Well, that's the role for it. That's the decorum. That's keeping decorum in the 21st century role. I mean, and that's what a 21st century martial arms is going to do. That's what the neat thing about what we're doing is if you want to go to a happy place, sometimes Arnold talks about going to a happy place. Mine's kind of going back in time and seeing what my great great grandfather, how they were living, and sometimes when I get an ache, I don't run right to the cabinet and get an ibuprofen. Like what
Right.
would great granddad do? He, you know what I mean? Just think. I look at it from their viewpoint, and then come back to the future in our time, and what resources can we use now, type thing. But that's
Okay,
kind of
so
random.
let's
But yeah,
definitely get together
yeah,
and let's
yeah.
work how we can work that through. And another thing, because I was on a call with Illinois, and I was actually able to get free conference call to work.
Okay.
So
Yeah, definitely.
we can
Let's
also
set
be
that.
able to include that to be able to get more people in the, for other calls to be able to support too.
Yeah.
Now, Christine,
Which Joe knows I've been trying to get free conference call to work.
Doesn't Indiana? Isn't it Mike? Mike's his name. I think he's still considering being the Indiana state elected marshal at arms. Isn't that correct?
Tom,
Tom, yeah.
I haven't heard any more from him since he's been on that last call with us. I'm not sure. He did respond and gave his choice in this for adding to the peacekeepers.
Okay.
So, but other than I'm not quite sure. It could be work picked up right now or something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and again, in exchange, because what we're experiencing is three we're converging in three different aspects. How a state assembly is without official coordination was suitable with the contingency, and that would be a marshal at arms.
Mhm.
Where Indiana, you would definitely, that would be the very next role that you would want to have as a state elected marshal at arms to cover down. So Justin has many perspectives with that. He's seasoned with not only that, but also as coordinator. So you can see it can be done even by you, Christine. The
Right.
thing is, it's a state elected role, and then it's couched within a certain realm within the assemblies, and then it just branches out beautifully from there.
Mhm.
So if Tom does decide to step up, and I'm sure Tom would also frequent the nationwide marshal at arms call every 2 weeks along with Justin. So they also have that
I'm
same
pretty sure
perspective.
he does go back through the video recordings too, so I'm sure he'll get this.
Yeah. So what I'll do is what I'm here for. My main capacity is there of peacekeeping and reflecting and trying to get the word out more. Repetitive is the marketing edge around the peacekeeping task force and what it recognizes, what its charter is, where it came from, what's its influence,
Mhm.
uh, what's its assurances and guarantees. So we do recognize the marshal at arms role. We recognize all of the five main peacekeeping entities. And with this recording today, through your efforts, you've shown how we're attempting to receive that warm handshake with all participating state assemblies. And then anybody who is on the Indiana Assembly would like to go there, that by all means go there. Questions, answers, continue to go back through. Also at the bottom, there's a separate blog spot. It's a blog station for sub articles that are there. The site is still growing. So again, once more and more people become more comfortable with the fact that there is peacekeeping and the marshal at arms is the top within the assembly, but just in general, peacekeeping in general, more people, I believe, will come to the assemblies new, and those who have been within the assemblies will return with
Yep.
that extra bit of comfort knowing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I know
Yeah, we all
I know you keep the meetings at 9, so I'll stop, or 90 minutes, so I'll stop and go ahead, Justin. I'm sorry to be taking over so much of the call here.
Go
no,
ahead.
I just want to just reiterate, Christine. Let's get together. You kind of give me a tutorial on YouTube if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's another thing. That's what I wanted to
Because
say,
that would be
Joe. Is
great for me because we went that whole part not having it
yeah,
clicked in that had I been able to know earlier, but the recording is still there. Will be.
right.
I'm sorry my
Yeah,
lighting is so bad. You guys know I'm on the road and my lighting is terrible. terrible.
Just be
I
safe.
much rather
I
be at
try,
home sitting in my little office with my fancier lights. I'm sorry about that.
I'm outside, so I'm trying to hide the light too. But no, that's why I offered too. It's somebody mentioned work. He might be busy with work. I think with winter coming on and the time change getting ready to happen, me personally, that's going to slow me down and give me more opportunity to be available for Monday nights for sure. And so I'm trying to change my schedule for Monday nights, do the assembly thing at least until we get more participation on Kentucky, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm gonna commit to Monday nights and then maybe one Tuesday at the end of the month for a Kentucky General Assembly meeting for our committees to be able to give reports and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
but
Sounds great.
just let's get
Awesome.
together and we'll get that worked out. So sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with free conference call, we could be able to open up to do more things, that because they didn't have the background check and member agreement for here. at least be able to then go into pre-conference call to be able to do some more outreach from that aspect, and more can be able to get on the call that way as well.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for looking into that.
I don't think I
Yeah.
can do free conference call at the same time of doing Zoom and the others yet. I don't know for sure yet. Because I just I just on Saturday, I think it was, or Wednesday, was able to get free conference call to even work. It hasn't worked on my computer for well over a year. Every time I would try and get in, it just wouldn't connect. So it finally something happened.
We tried that last month and was having issues, but Christine's in. But yeah, free conference call is what we utilize. The Continental Marshals utilizes it 100%. But we use
that way we can
used,
get that extra, because I really don't want to do solely YouTube, as that for that extra space. But free conference call, we could be able to bring more forward and give more of general outreach knowledge through that aspect too. Yeah,
I'm down.
awesome.
Christine, I'll hold the rest of these questions, but the intent was to gain a better perspective of a more seasoned coordinator amongst the three of us, so that it'll help garner more interest, for Kentucky or for anybody else who catches this recording and also has struggled with coordination.
So we can continue next week with more of the same questions to help keep,
sure,
if that would help.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Anything else we want to?
No, that's it. That's it for me, Christine, for peacekeeping.
Awesome. And so we've got great news. Indiana has accepted peacekeeping, joining with Peacekeeping Task Force News. So my assignment is making sure I get the link up then this week onto the Assembly website, so we have that ready.
And what you'll see is that hover color code will change from orange to dark green. Okay. And then we'll also provide a description underneath the site, the page there for states, describing what were our fullest intention there. And hopefully all of the state assemblies will have websites, a web presence. And just as we go, slowly but surely. I mean, Kentucky will be next, pitching the same opportunity. So
awesome.
I just can't ask you, what do you need from us? I didn't know you didn't.
Well, Christine, can you describe what you understand, what you pitched to your?
What I did was send out an email to those that are papered up, armored up on Indiana, and gave them the choice and saying we have the opportunity for the Peacekeeper Task Force Peacekeeper news, and be able to, when there's actually, I can pull up the email and share it, but anyway, I did an email
to be listed on your website.
Right.
Is the first main step. Yeah.
Right. And then and I gave them, because I put it right out that week. I started it out and then gave them until the 30th to present with a reply for yes or no.
Yeah, and with that effort, it's the first step moving forward to because again, we're already obligated to provide those evaluation aspects, subsequent training aspects, and coordination aspects for the peacekeepers. So what that means is the broader aspect of that is when your state has Continental Marshals there to help facilitate your county sheriffs, and your assembly militia gaining aspects of with a broad spectrum of what a community offers. Community means people, so that's the people, and to help those of their preparedness teams, first responders teams, and those who would defend their county and their state in the proper manner. The Peacekeeping Task Force is there to assure that all entities are aware of these efforts and that they're lawful and they're peaceful. And so that's the promise from the Peacekeeping Task Force. So when our site is on is illustrated on each state assembly's website, that's that warm handshake we're asking for at this time. And then the rest speaks for itself.
And so does that get us on your website highlighted like you just mentioned from orange to
Correct.
green?
Yeah, from orange
And then
to
when,
dark green.
and then when they hover over the state, the web address pops up.
Yeah, it's already there. It's that
Yeah.
all we're asking. We've confirmed that the 20 or so, roughly half of the states have a web presence. But there's no indication on there that we can determine where they've recognized that the Peacekeeping Task Force actually has a website.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, we do our own WordPress because that would be pretty easy.
Right. Uh-huh.
So,
Yep.
all right then. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the bottom section.
Here's the
Yep.
page.
Right.
And like for
cool.
Indiana, we'll change cooperation pending from that orange to a green. So
Yeah.
your Kentucky would.
Darker green. Yeah, I got you. Pretty cool setup, man.
Right?
Thank you.
Exciting.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we got
Thank you.
steps for moving forward. Okay, so now next week, okay, so got to make sure we adjourn with our dates. Okay, so next week, October the 9th, that is for Jural Assembly and Militia. And we'll re-adjourn for the General Assembly and Militia on the 16th. Okay.
Okay, great.
And just a reminder, this is a month that has 5 Mondays, so we're not going to meet on the 30th. Okay. All right. Okay. Peace and love. See you on the next call. Take care.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Justin. See you.
Peace.